Tuesdays, the tutor elementary school students in reading.
Oh.
So if I did that today, it's Tuesday.
Well, you guys ready? The half of you that are actually here. Those of you that are just watching from home. I'm giving you dirty looks right now.
No, I don't think the empty spaces care.
No, no. And quite honestly, this class could be considered a hybrid class, you know, and we may eventually make it into a hybrid class. Lisa and I have talked about it, so I mean, it doesn't bother me that people want to, that's what bothers me, you know. People want to watch the videos at home and do their work, and I don't really care. You know, I'm just waiting for the day where nobody shows up and I'm lecturing to an empty room and I have to lecture because everybody's watching it on video.
We're all waiting.
You know what I mean? Like that day is going to come one of these days, right? So, but basically, I have graded your install and set up WordPress and create your template files assignments. If you got a message from me saying, hey, how come your templates aren't just HTML files, no includes, etc. Make sure you please do get those done correctly. So if I felt like you guys did them incorrectly, I did send you an email. If you did not get an email from me, you probably did things correctly or don't have a client staging area for me to see, and I think that you might have dropped the class, right? There's always names that people that, you know, are still on the roster, but I haven't seen them. So go ahead and, you know, check your grades here. Again, if you want to check your grades, you will have to request a password first, right, by putting in your email address. Remember, the email address that I am using for grades is the email address that is on my roster that I passed around. So one of two things: if it can't find your email address, just send me a message through my contact form. You know, hey, use this email, and I'll update it. But again, you should be marked off for the first 3 assignments. For choose your project site, client staging area, install and set up WordPress and create your template files. I should have marked everybody off. So again, no need to post a link to your client staging area every week, week by week. Again, what I'm basically going to do week by week is come Monday, I'm just going to go through my list and go check out your client staging areas and go from there, go to your GitHub accounts, go to your GitHub repo where your templates that is going to become your theme hang out, and then go to your WordPress install and check the front end to see that everything is lining up magically. Okay, any questions on that? Pretty straightforward. Yeah. You guys are talkative today. So what we are going to do today then is talk anatomy of a WordPress theme, what the files are, and then we're actually going to start and create your theme from your template system. So at the end of the week, create your content and menu system is due, right? Sherrod, you okay? Yeah. Okay. The assignment that then is for these 2 lectures, if we take a look at create your theme from your template, basically what we're going to do is you're going to create your index.php file, your main styles, style.css, your functions.php, and your screenshot from your template files. You are going to use the blog info, body class, WP head, WP footer functions, and as well, we will be taking a look at the WordPress loop. So we will probably get through these today, and then on Thursday pick up the loop. Okay. Everybody ready? Of course you guys are. So if I go to the anatomy of a WordPress theme, well, what's in a theme? Again, if we look into the themes folder in our WP content folder, in our WordPress folder, right? So if I log into my remote server, currently, what I've asked you to do is you should, if you have not already, placed your templates into your themes folder. Thereby, your templates are now a theme, okay? You haven't created all the theme files, but let's consider now that we're going from the verbiage of your template files to creating your theme files, okay? So if I log into, so if I go to my client staging area and I go to my 2017.02 repository, or excuse me, protosite, and I go to my repository. If I go to my repository, right now you should have in your repository your main.html, or if you've labeled it about.html or gallery.html or one of your main interior pages.html, right? Good for you. And if you have home.html or index.html, right, I can then go and see your templates. So this is what you should have right now in your repository. And if you have placed it then in your themes folder, when we log into the dashboard, and we go to Appearance Themes, again, I installed BizNet Lite and Brilliant as themes that we were just taking a look at. And right now, I have this WEB170 Spring 17.02 installed because it's in my themes folder, but it says broken. Style sheet is missing. Well, the style sheet is not actually missing. The style sheet is not named correctly, okay? So, but nonetheless, it is in, like I said, in my themes folder where that BizNet Lite and Brilliant are also hanging out. And here's what I'm going to do with those two. Buh and buy.
You download those?
Yeah, those were those those ones that I downloaded and installed.
Oh, you just deleted them.
I just deleted them.
I just couldn't see what it was. You just did.
Yeah, because I'm not going to be using them, right? In other words, I just don't want extra crap in my folders that I don't need. I'm going to keep the 2016, 17, and 15 because I think if I delete those, the next time WordPress updates, it'll see those as missing and install them anyway, or it might not. I don't remember, but whatever, who cares? So what I want to do then is start making the files that WordPress wants in my themes folder, okay? So let's just kind of go back to the lecture here and then take a look at the files. So here is an example screenshot out of my Premium Design Works theme folder where you can see I have Index.php. I have header.php, which is like the header include that you guys did in Web 200 or Web 120. I have the footer.php, which is the footer include like you did in 200 or 120. And then I have other files like page.php, single.php, sidebar.php, page-home, which actually we're going to use front-page instead. One for attachments, comments, all kinds of other files. So if we look at then my repository for the demo for this class, again, here's my main.html, here's my home.html, and then the other files that are in this theme are index.php, header.php, footer.php, front page, page, single, sidebar. So I originally had this called styles. It needs to be named style, singular, to be pulled by WordPress. Here's the 404, in other words, if things are not found. I also have a couple other files like screenshot, functions, and then I have my flexslider.css. So anytime I'm using CSS that is, I'm installing it myself or I'm using it kind of in my theme like FlexSlider, I'll put it at the same root level as all my other files in here. Okay, so let's kind of take a look at then why all these files, what do all these files do? Well, if I go to index.php and open it, right? Index.php is the first file that we are going to need to make. So if we come down here, what are all the files of a theme, right? If we open this graphic, open image in a new tab, here's just kind of a drawing of how these files work. Come on, zoom. And link a new tab, that's right. So this is just my visual representation of similar, like when you guys did includes in the 200 or 120 class, the header.php file generally is everything from your doc type all the way through your navigation, etc. So if I go and look at then header.php, doc type, head tag, right? All the stuff that typically goes in your head tag, right? Same thing down at the bottom, footer.php generally is everything from wherever you choose to close your page specific stuff, your copyright information. We are going to use then a function here that will write some JavaScript files and some other files into our WordPress site, like the admin bar will get written in there using the WP footer file.
Are those PHP files, we took them out of our template files.
Uh-huh.
So do they don't come back the same as what we took out?
Kind of, yeah.
Are they put in by us? Do we write them? Or
You're going to do the
WordPress?
same thing you did in Web 200
Okay.
by taking your template and creating include files out of it. Okay? So you are going to do the same thing.
It's
right.
not- WordPress doesn't generate them.
No, no. You are going to do that at a later date. We are going to start off with just index.php today, and then style.css, functions.php, and a screenshot. And we're going to do that here for a little while, for another week or so before we, or maybe just this week. I have to look at the, I don't remember what I'm talking about week by week until I get there. So, right? It's all written down though. So all I have to do is show up and go, oh, that's what I'm talking about today.
Do all of our CSS have to be compiled held in one CSS file?
No,
But you need one that's called style.
correct, your main one. Yeah, and I'll show you how to link up other style sheets. Like my flex slider, I'll show you how to link that up. Okay. So, but generally then let's say this page.php, that is then the file that gets used on pages. Smart, right? So if we look here then at page.php, so Sylvia, if we look here, get header, get footer, get sidebar, right? That's similar to include with a string. So if I look at what we did in, let's say, if I go to my 532 multiple pages for your website, or I'll just go back to the make your website responsible in the final one, and I open up index.php and you see include, and then a string value for go into the includes folder and grab header.php, right? Well, this is a WordPress written function that essentially does the same thing. It goes and searches for header.php. Same thing, get footer. That function goes and searches for footer.php. Guess what file get sidebar goes and looks for? Sidebar.php, right? So if we look at this graphic then, let's zoom out a little bit, right? Header.php, page.php, or index or single or whatever page we're on using, in other words, there are different files that different pages or postings or types of pages use. Your sidebar generally is sub-navigation and widgets and that kind of thing. Here is then comments.php. We're not going to use a comments file in this class, but how you would hook up a comments file, I'll just show you right now. So at least you can say that I told you about it. So if I go to, let's say, my business theme, and I look at single.php, again, this is the one for single postings, for blog postings. Comments template, that goes and gets comments.php, where if I look at what comments.php is, it is a file that's relatively complex. I basically have gone and grabbed a pre-existing comments file from WordPress and then added in my own HTML and that kind of stuff in classes to kind of customize it. But basically, here's all the functionality of the comments form, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So that's what we're not going to go through and write by hand because there's no, you know, you can just go get a comments file out of. So if you go to the 2017 one and look at their comments file, it's a standards comments file that has basic HTML markup in it that you can then just snap into your page and then customize and style at will, right? So if then we're back here and we are looking at these files then, well, what's the purpose of having so many different files? Again, WordPress uses different template page files for different instances. Like if I go to the proto-site demo, right now on this demo, I have set the home page to be a static page. Remember how we had that done in settings where we can say a static page or the blog feed page? So what we're going to do down the road is where is it? the right demo front page? Huh. There it is. We are going to label our template pages down the road so we know where we are or what file is being used. Okay. So if I go to this, go back to my demo, it is using then front-page.php. If I go to a regular page like the About page, it loads the template file page.php. If I go to the blog page, which again I've set to be the index of my blog feed, right? It then uses index.php. If I go to a single posting, it uses single.php. Does that make sense? That's just how WordPress works. So therefore, then we have a set of files. We're going to start with index.php today, right? But basically, if we go back to this lecture page, the files that you might be using, most likely will be using, is page.php when you're loading a regular page into your site. You can then go ahead and on my lecture, I've tried to link to the codex about those types of things. Okay.
So the blog page uses the index.php.
Correct.
It's another bit of evidence that WordPress is a blogging tool. Index.php being the default page that you go to the website. Just check it. Thank you. Thank you very much. For those of you at home, I'm getting a salute.
Do I need to go in and put a GIF up on the screen? You sure?
A really good one you can use. I say one second.
Yeah.
I just found it a little curious that that was where but it wasn't the home page that was index.php, it was the blog page. Oh, gonna be better does.
You're Stephen Colbert.
This is for you, Ron.
Thank you very much. I feel
So, okay. So getting back to what we should be talking about. Yes, it's a blogging platform,
okay.
Ron. It started off as a blogging platform and it's grown up and it's matured, but its inner child is still a blog. Yes, you are correct. Single. If you are loading a single blog posting in your site, Ron, a single blog posting, you'll use single.php. If you are loading the blog feed, you're probably going to be loading index.php for a blog feed. Not that I'm bitter. Not that I'm bitter. Header.php is your document head, the first file that has everything from the doc type all the way through wherever you want to stop it. Footer.php, same thing, picks up where you left off for page-specific stuff all the way through the closing HTML. Sidebar.php, they call it the widgets file. Well, yeah, you can put widgets in there, you can put dynamic widgets in there, but you can also hand code stuff like the WP list pages function to grab a certain bit of child pages, right, from whatever ID that you want, etc. Style.css. This is going to be your main style sheet. So we will call this main style sheet using a function, and then I'll show you how to access your other style sheets using the same function with a different argument passed through it. Functions.php. This is where you may house. What do you think goes in functions.php? Functions, right? So if you have something like you've written a function for a title tag, and instead of storing this long written out function in here, writing that long PHP function there, you can access by using a function and accessing the functions. So it will go and look for this function in your functions file. Okay. Same thing with shortcode. If you ever use shortcode, it'll go look for the function possibly in your functions file, right? It might go look for it in a plugin, right? So think of the functions file as, instead of writing your own plugins, you can store your own functions in there, right? So that's where I've written for instance, in my business theme. So today what I was doing was, for my business theme, if anybody noticed that I updated my homepage with icons over the break, what I did today was I put those icons then as icons on the gateway page. So how I did that was, I have a function called getChildPages that goes and looks for post type page that has a parent page. So it looks for subpages. So then I wrote a loop in here and just put the child image in there to go get the featured image size icon. So icon is not a size that is a default size in WordPress. So I added the size icon here. Okay, so that's how you use the functions file, is a lot of that basic functionality that you can add in without having to use plugins. Okay. All right. So it's finally time to create and customize your WordPress theme. Okay. Oh, I guess we can't. Gotta update some of my links. That's what happens in WordPress when you change some names around. Things get not found. And then you get embarrassed in front of class. Create your theme from your template. So, creating WordPress theme from a template. So what we're going to start to do today then is, step one, install your template as a new theme. Well, if you have already placed your template system into your themes folder, congratulations, step one accomplished, right? So put your templates folder inside of your themes folder, okay? Now, it's not going to work right away. So if we look now at, again, under appearance themes, there's 2016, 2015, 2017, and again, broken theme. Style sheet is missing, okay? So style sheet is not actually missing, it's just labeled incorrectly. So this is where, if you have styles.css or something else.css, and I'm actually going to delete this out of there temporarily because I need to write that in by hand. Let's now save this as, after the blue donut is spinning. Come on. People are having problems with Dreamweaver, aren't they? There we go. It just takes a long time. I am then going to save this as in my WEB170 Spring 1702 folder, as style.css. Okay. And eventually it should show up here. I'm on the remote server, right? Close. That's right. I put it in my local. So there it is, style.css. I'm going to shove that up to the server. I am also going to make sure that under my site manager, if I am using FTP, what I like doing is, great, automatically upload files to server unsave is checked. So that every time I make an edit and save it, it'll kick it up to the server. So remote server, come on. Go. Aha, wrong folder.
Mike, are all the browsers working for you? Or Sharab? Since you're the only 3 on the school computers in this room right now.
Kick style, CSS, I'm only using Chrome.
That's all I'm using actually. Okay.
So now if I kick style.cs up there, template is missing. Standalone themes need to have an index.php template file. So I'm getting closer. My theme is still broken. Here's what I want to do. So I'm going to open up main.html because this is my main template, my main normal template. And I am going to save this as now. Index.php.
So now why are you instead of home?
I could use home, you're correct. But I'm going to use main because what I'm interested in is having a page template that has a content area and a sidebar right now, where my main page template has a content area and a sidebar. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if our homepage also fits that description, any reason we shouldn't use that instead, or will that be?
It's fine. In other words, let's say it like this. Mike, why did you make me do both home and main page templates? Right? That's kind of the question. Because the main page has a copy area and a sidebar area in my design. The home page has a spot where I put widgets and a flex slider. So those are the pieces that I want to use. So however you use them and splice and put them together, it's all you, Chris. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Good question though. So now, but I recommend, like I said, for right now, using the file that has a content area and a sidebar in it, right? To make into index.php, because eventually, like I said, how index.php is going to function in what we are doing is, again, if we look at the demo proto site of mine and we go here, here is index.php where it has a content area and a sidebar. Does that make sense? Okay.
So what are we taking out of our templates? I mean, the content is going to be the content from other places.
You'll see.
Okay. I'm sure I will.
One step at a time.
Makes sense.
One step at a time. In other words, I could explain it to you now, but I'm going to choose to explain it to you when I damn well want to get to it for the class.
Makes sense.
But that just shows that you're thinking ahead, Ron. Okay. So anyway, I now have index.php and style.css. So if I go back to my install, I should see, hopefully, that's right. Still broken because I don't have a template header in style.css. But I didn't get these errors last time. Let's see. Local view. Aha. Let's go to remote server. Why are things not putting up on save? Local view. Index. Put you up there. Style.css. Put you up there. Remote server. Let's make sure that I'm under site. Manage sites. WEB170. Servers. So I should have on my remote server index.php and style.css. If I go back here now and refresh, right, you'll see now my theme is here. But I have no details, right? Unlike if I looked at one of these and it gave me the name, the byline, the description, maybe some tags, etc. So what we need to do then is, so we've created our index.php. So take your main, make it into index.php. In your main style sheet, make sure it's named style.css. And then in terms of theme development, we need to add this stuff or some of this stuff. So WordPress then will give us this information there. So what I want to do then is say theme name, theme URI. So in style.css, I want to, in between comments, say theme name. Sounds like a good name. Theme URI. Is that what the next one is? Let's go see. I always forget. Theme URI. I don't need that. Author and author URI. Actually, if I wanted to do theme URI, let's do that. So, link to my GitHub repository, because if you want to download it, there it is. So for theme URI, I'm just going to put a link to my GitHub repository. What's the next one I need? Author. Author URI. oldmikesandhula.com. Description. See if that's what I need. Description. This is the demo theme for my web 170 class in the for my web 170 section 01 class in the spring 2017 quarter. Version 42.
Take the thunder up and the name, the version.
You know what 42 means? It's the answer to everything. Which there's actual logical, like computer character or something that it's from. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Anybody?
Was the motorcycle then?
Hitchhiker's Guide. I could do version 1 if I wanted to, but I think 42 is funnier.
But no, you just made it up.
Yes, I just made it up, right? So now that I do that and I go back here, got it? And if I refresh, now it says Web 170 Springs 2017 Section 1 demo theme. And if I view theme details by Mike Sinkula, it links to my website, version 42. And this is the demo. Now I don't have a screenshot. So instead of going and making a screenshot, what you guys should do is take a screen grab, crop it however you want to for yours. But because I already have one existing, I'm just going to take my old screenshot, post it there. And now I have my screenshot. You have just created your theme. There's more to it than that. So here's what's going to happen. Whoops. I'm going to activate this.
Wait, where did you put the image?
Chris? Just with your other files. So now if I activate it and I go and I visit site, oh, wah, wah, wah. What happened?
No CSS.
There's a CSS file there. Let's view the path. Styles.css. This file path is wrong. In other words, where this actually lives is if we went to my demo theme, and I went to view page source, style sheet, check out the URL. It gives me the long absolute URL to where my domain is, to the WordPress folder, WP content, themes, demo, style sheet. And it's there. So what we have to do now is, let's go to index.php, right? So now we have a working, somewhat working theme where we can control a whole WordPress site using just index.php. We do not have to break it into all of the includes, nor break it into page, single, et cetera, et cetera. We can get away with just using index.php, but it's going to be limited, right? Index.php is going to be used for everything site-wide, right? And if we want different conditions and different things to happen on different pages, we'll have to write a bunch of conditionals if pages do this, if pages, or if is this, right? So that's where then breaking things out into those files makes sense. But for now, we can just start by oh, we forgot our functions.php file. Let's put that in there. So how many of you have ever been working on a file and don't remember or don't know what project that file goes to? Okay, so what I typically do is I've got so many WordPress sites with files. All of them have a file called functions.php. So how do I know which one goes to which project? I typically take the comment from my CSS file here, copy it, new, PHP, write a PHP tag, and put that comment in there. So I know that when I save this as functions.php, there, if I ever open this, I know which project it belongs to, right? So in my, then again, in a lot of the work I do, right? If I went to any one of these, oh, I don't have it in there. I'm going to totally get confused. Let's go to my business one. Right? So I put it there. And sometimes my comments aren't the most appropriate. So I don't read them aloud in class. So what we have to do now is let's go back to index.php. And this is where we have those links to styles and flex slider. So this is where just like you, I can't remember every single thing off the top of my head. So I got my resources. My nice colored printouts. Okay. So what I need to do then is I'm here. It's not working. So we need to start adding the functions to our theme. The first one that we're going to start with is blog info. Okay. So blog info will allow me to do things like display the site title, display the tagline, display the site address, so on and so forth. I want to use this one, style sheet URL. So instead of saying styles.css or style.css, I want to use the blog info function. And the argument that I want to use then is style sheet URL. Okay, so once I do that now, and I refresh, it goes and grabs my style sheet. Okay, all of this other stuff in here is static at this point in time, meaning those don't work. All right, this content isn't being pulled out of the database, but at least I have a working theme now. My WordPress folder. So from here, what we have to do then is get everything else to work. So again, currently, if we go back here and I view page source, you can see that my style sheet link works. It goes to my style sheet. However, if I go to the Flex Slider one, not found. So I need to do the same thing here, except instead of using blog info style sheet URL, we are going to use either template URL or template directory to go look into our theme directory for a file. So this is how, Chris, if you have multiple style sheets, right, you can then do this.
But that style sheet URL should be pulling our style.
Right, so notice this argument goes and digs into your themes folder and loads style.css.
Yeah, which is only partially. Well, so for instance, would it not pull an at font face from that?
If your at font face stuff is in your style sheet, so let's say it like this, in your at font face for source URLs, do you have a .. slash? Because your style sheet used to be in a separate folder?
You might be on something there.
Yeah, that's why it's not working.
And
So-
also why all my images aren't working. So wait,
Correct.
But I didn't take the images out of the images.
Well, in other words, if I look at styles here, right? If I have anything like this, Chris, this style sheet has loaded at the root of this theme folder. So it is going and looking for the folder images.
Well, I changed it for the style sheet.
Right, but what I'm saying is this is the problem with the .. slash thing, is not really that compatible with the WordPress world. You can get it to work, but this is where then, if you have styles.css at the root of your directory, right, or at the root of your theme,
Yeah.
true?
Yeah.
Then instead of .. slash images, .. slash fonts, etc., get rid of the .. slash and just go directly.
Yeah, but I didn't have the .. slash for any of the images because I'm pulling them
Okay,
from.
so we'll take a look later. Okay, but that's part of your problem, probably among many things. But you know, I'm not a professional in that department. I'm sorry. I pick on Chris because I like Chris, right? I'm sorry, Chris. He doesn't. I'm a jerk, I know. All right, so going back here. So if I want flexslider.css to load, I need to go look into the theme folder to load flexslider.css, because here it is, right? And all of you haters of Dreamweaver, using Dreamweaver in this class so I can go point to this and have my code up really works very nicely to have the site files there. So, yeah. So here is where the argument that I'm going to use is template directory. Thank you guys for not yelling out that I misspelled something. How many of you counted to 3? So for you that don't know, if I misspell something, before you tell me I misspelled something, you have to count to 3. You have to give me 3 seconds to catch up before you tell me.
Well, you
Yeah.
spelled spring wrong a long time ago.
Really? Did you count to 3? It's been longer than
Been
3
about 5
seconds.
minutes.
All right. Thanks, Rod. So template directory. Is this going to work? Don't forget slash. If you ever use template directory, let me show this to you. Spaces and slashes are important. Take a look at that. See how there's no slash between the theme name and the file name? So when it comes to template directory, make sure you do that. Okay? So Chris, if you have images in an images folder, right? You are going to use template directory to go look into your images folder for an image. Okay? So in other words, if I have this images toggle.png here, right? I would want to use go look into the template directory into the images folder for that toggle image.
You need to do that to pull in.
Any images that are associated with your theme, right? If you're putting content imagery, remember how we inserted images? That will be, in other words, I don't have a link to my about page just yet in my menu, but if I go to my about page in the URL, oh, that's right, I'm not pulling my loop in yet, so nothing is working. In other words, I haven't used my loop to pull in my content yet.
But even those images that you do put in through your WordPress dashboard, they're not going to have the same code that we've been using to display images.
So the images that we insert into the text editor are going to have that long URL pathway to the uploads folder.
Right, so you can't call it directly to HTML out of the image folder.
Correct. Maybe. I mean, you can, but I mean, you can do whatever you want if you got the right pathway to call.
But I mean, just, if you have a folder called image, right, IMG,
Mhm.
you can't just say image/flyline brew 2.
No, you have to use the absolute. You have to use the absolute URL. In other words, this featured image here. Let's just go get that temporary image just to show you. So if you have images in your page, like this featured image that is in this images folder, that's where then you're going to have to use
You give it that PHP tag and then put the tag.
right? So if you have logo, for instance, right, that's in your images folder, you have to go and use template directory to go get it in the images folder. Don't forget the slash right here though, okay, after template directory. So now if I save that, because this is part of my template, just an image in my template that I'm going to delete later because we're going to get things using the loop, right? But I don't have a logo file. I just have my name, right? But if I had a logo file, I would use blog info template directory / images logo SVG in my images folder. Does that make sense? Is this what you're asking right here? Okay, so yeah, you can't just do the relative URL. So if we look then at my business theme, this is how it's being called in my business theme, right? So if I go to my business site, because it's business time, if I'm wearing my business socks, it's Wednesday and I've taken out the recycling. Anybody else besides Adam is getting, never mind. It's a good song. So then it gives me the long URL, the absolute URL to my logo file, okay? So if I go back here where I was and I had that featured image that wasn't loading, right there, now that I've called it correctly, it loads because it's sitting in my images folder. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's how you dig into your, so blog info template directory is how you dig into your themes folder for anything, okay?
But what you're saying is we don't necessarily want to go through and replace fix all the images in our static content.
No,
Because we're going to throw that out.
because we're going to throw that out and dynamically insert content through the WordPress admin.
Okay.
Yeah, so only if you have images that are part of your theme design. For instance, on my business sites, I have these crop marks as SVG files, right? So therefore, those SVG files are being called as image tags using template directory to go into my images folder for those. But everything else that's content imagery, like this, or if we go to here and go to logos, these are inserted up through the admin. Because that's the whole thing about a content management system. You want to be able to manage content like that dynamically. That's different than the artwork for your theme, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep. And if we have like a background image reference in our CSS file, that's not going to change at all as long as they're in the same position relative to one.
Correct. So this background file, right? The squares right there are loaded in my style sheet images boxes, okay? Because this file right here has loaded with that URL already, I can then get away with using a relative URL in my style sheet like that, okay? So in my style sheet, I don't have to use the absolute URL. I can use relative URLs, okay?
Not to backtrack too much, but the screenshot for the theme.
Uh-huh.
So you put it in the root, and did you have to name it anything in particular?
Screenshot.png.
Yeah, I did that. It's not so much.
Yeah, it needs to be, Chris, needs to be labeled screenshot.png, all one word.
Oh, I do have caps on PNG.
Yeah, well, lowercase. Okay, so moving on. So blog info then, you can call your style sheet URL, right? You can then go into your template directory it is also used for getting, so if we go back here, description, if you pass the description argument through it, that displays the tagline from your website. Name displays the site title, okay? So I use that in my title tag function that I wrote a little while ago. Right? Where if I'm on the front page, I want to get the site's tagline, so I'm going to use blog info description. If I'm on a page or a single, I want to get the title. For everything else, go get the description, post parent, etc. To retrieve the site name, I'm going to use blog info name. So for right now, we're going to write a temporary title tag. Blog info. Description will get the site tagline. Blog info with the argument of name will get our site's title, the name of our blog. Yeah, I'll keep on saying blog for you, Ron.
I noticed,
Yeah.
it's just, can't get away from
You
it.
can't. You're right. It's it started off as a blogging platform, but so now if I go back to the home page, load the home page, and look at the page source for the title tag, it is using my tagline, just another WordPress site, and the name of my website, WordPress Spring 2017 Section 2 Demo. Again, we are going to write a more search engine optimized title tag later using our functions file. But for right now, just leave it blog info description, pipe, blog info name. The next thing we need to do in our body tag. How many of you have ever put in your body tag something like this? Okay, so there's a dynamic way to do that same thing. Make sure you have a space between body and your PHP tag. We are then going to use the body class function. Okay, again, make sure you have this space here because it's going to write class equals whatever into your file.
We only need that if we do have thoughts on about that.
It's a good idea to just do it because there will be times that you want to reference something on a template page or on a certain page, and you can do it through this body class hook, meaning.
We're not putting anything in the friends right now?
What?
We're not gonna name it? Or I already had a tag there, right, for tap room, so can I put it in between the friends and it's fine?
You should, well, no.
No.
You should get rid of the class that you have,
Yes.
and you will then have to update your styles to reflect the, let me show you what it's going to do, Chris, or Dan. I know, man. I know. Dan, Chris, whatever your name is, I don't care if you hate me. I don't. All I care is that you learn something. That's it. Trying to. Sometimes it's tougher than it needs to be. So if we refresh this then and view page source, it is going to write in the class, home, blog, logged in, admin bar, no customized support. Okay. In other words, we are on the home page. It is the blog feed. We are logged in. Okay. So if I was on the about page, and viewed page source, it would say class, page template default, we're on a page, the page ID is 18, logged in, admin bar, et cetera, okay? So that's the kind of stuff that it's gonna write. So if you have, did you have taproom, class taproom, because you were on a set of pages called taproom?
Well, I mean, that's the one I stole for the, right, that I used for the main or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so now I'm missing my background image, my size cover, fixed, center, background stuff, right? Because it's tied to the CSS for body back, that taproom.
Yeah, so basically what you're gonna have to do then is, why did you choose class taproom? What was the significance of taproom?
It's specific to that page.
Right.
Right.
So you can then, instead of class taproom, find page ID 18.
You put that in the CSS.
Right, or whatever page ID it is. So in other words, hold on. So if it was it on a subpage?
What's that?
Taproom.
It is now effectively my main. It's my index PHP.
Okay.
Right.
So then basically, if it was your home page, right, in your CSS, instead of using class taproom,
Right.
change it to home in your CSS file.
That's it. So it's just body.home.
Correct. Right? In other words, we have to play the, okay, these are the classes that WordPress kicks out because I'm wherever I am within the site and it's doing whatever it's doing, like in the navigation structure, current page parent, current page ancestor, et cetera, to do. So you got it to work?
Yeah, it changed my background image back.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, you just have to
Know what it's called.
Yeah, you just have to look at the source code to see what WordPress is writing into the classes or as classes. So again, if we look at my demo, right? And we look at, so if we go to the about page, right? And the about page is highlighted like this, like we did in Web 200. If I go and inspect it, we look at that list item. In that list item, it's saying current menu item. So that's, instead, remember how we did the current thing in Web 200? I'm waiting for an answer. Yes, even though you weren't there. Thanks. Right? I feel like I lost them. Look at them. They're over there. They're not even paying attention now. Right? So, yeah, so that's how then you would do that you are here link kind of thing. All right. So far, so good, right? Or so far, so good enough. Let's see where we are. Here we are. What are we doing now? Let's go back to lecture. So that was the body class function, okay? So the next couple things that we want to do, and then we'll stop for the day, is let's put in the WP head and the WP footer functions and show you what happens. So have you noticed that your admin bars disappeared? You guys didn't even notice that, did you? Right? Well, if you notice your admin bars disappeared, that's because you aren't calling it using the WP footer function. So let's go put in WP header and WP footer functions. So what you want to do is, for the WP head function, right? The WP head function, then put this template tag immediately before the closing head tag in your theme, okay? And we'll see what it does. So I make my comments, I'd say religiously, but I'm an atheist, but you know what I'm talking about. WP head function. What does that do? Well, if you have plugins or anything else, so let's say it like this: begin WP head function, end WP head function, style sheet, contact form 7, right? So if you have any style sheets and or JavaScripts associated with any plugins that have been created, right? The WP head function is the hook to put a style sheet or a JavaScript that is associated with a plugin into your source code so it pulls it, okay? As well, remember when we turned off robots? That gets put in there as well. So there are a lot of things that get placed into the code of your page, of your website, through the WP head function. It's not going to tell us a whole lot of information on, but things like style sheets and JavaScripts, as well as, you don't see it here because I'm on the home page, but if I'm on this page in my website, in my business site, that's where in the WP, so I commented out my WP head tag as well, or head function, and that's where, remember where I said I found the P equals 2051, the number of it? It will write that into your source code so you can find it as well. Make sense?
Now, is there a reason why the WP head function would have added like 20 pixels of margin to the top without actually giving me the bar?
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense to you.
That makes, in other words, this.
Yes, pretty much.
You know why that's happening?
No.
Because the style for your admin is loaded. The style for your admin bar is loaded, but your admin bar is not loaded. Okay, so let's go load it, Chris. So just like WP head function, we want to go all the way down to before the closing body tag and put in your WP footer function. So the WP footer function does the same kind of thing. Put this template tag immediately before your closing body tag. Okay, so put the WP footer right before your closing body tag. And what that is going to do then is, so Chris, right, we're here, we refresh, admin bar. Okay, so if I refresh my source code and go all the way down to the bottom, this is where then the WP footer function puts a lot of JavaScript stuff, right? So how many of you ever put JavaScript down at the bottom of your page, right? Okay, well, if the plugin or whatever you're trying to use wants to put a JavaScript down at the bottom like that, it is going to use the WP footer hook to go find that and place it in the WP footer.
So this is all screwed up now,
It is?
completely. I'd show you, but I can't show you.
Yeah. Look for spelling mistake or something.
Well, it's WP_head, right? And I didn't get the bar at the top.
Okay.
And then WP_footer, I just got a whole bunch of text written at the bottom of my page.
I don't believe you. I'll come over there in a second.
That's what they call it, dynamic content.
Because this is the last thing we're going to do today, and then the rest of the time will be lab, and then we'll pick up the loop next on Thursday. Okay. So, but anyway, that's where the WP footer is going to put in your admin bar code, right? And then possibly any JavaScripts that are associated places with plugins like Contact Form 7, etc. Okay? Make sense? So we have gone through WP footer on the creating a WordPress theme from a template lecture. Right? So on Thursday, we will start out with creating the loop. We should take about an hour or so and then have lab time on Thursday. Okay? Oh, there is that one thing that I forgot to tell you guys.